Hey everybody, welcome back to the Race 5 Smokehouse and Grill, and today we are firing up the Weber Kettle and cooking up this awesome 4-pound picanha. Let's go! So I was given this picanha, which is also known as a sirloin cap. It's really famous in Brazil or Brazilian steakhouses. They'll like to cut it with the grain, separate, basically make this into little steaks, put it on a rotisserie until it's done, shave it off, and you eat it that way. But we're actually gonna cook this thing whole on the Weber Kettle. So first thing we need to do is take a look at it, see if it needs any trimming, and then we're gonna season it. So this meat side here looks really good. Doesn't look like there needs to be any trimming on here. This did come from Wild Fork. I've always had great luck getting stuff from Wild Fork. Meat side looks great. Backside, a lot of fat, but there's some of this stuff like here, this is really soft fat. So I'm gonna try to leave a little fat cap on there because when it cooks and renders, it's gonna be great flavor on the final steak. But some of this stuff is really hard. I'm gonna get that off of there because it's not gonna render well in the short time it's gonna cook. So you could feel exactly where the soft fat is and where the hard fat begins. So I don't want to go too deep into here because you want to keep some fat on there. Oh, starting to shine through a little bit there. So we are going to not go much further on this. Just trying to even this out some a little bit since I did go a little deeper than I wanted to there. You got this thin stuff here, which is probably just going to burn up a little bit from the heat, so we'll go ahead and just kind of square that up. That's all the trimming I'm going to do on this guy. Now it's time to season. I'm gonna cook this fat side up on the grill. We're gonna season the meat side first. I always like to season the side that goes down first. That way I'm not flipping it onto the presentation side. And I always like having the fat side up just for presentation because as you're cutting, you get that nice fat cap on top. It looks awesome. We're not getting too crazy on the seasoning with this today. We are doing garlic powder, kosher salt, and coarse black pepper. That's it. I like putting the finer garlic powder down first. Then we're gonna hit it with the kosher salt. And finally, the 16 mesh black pepper. Again, hit it pretty liberally. It is a big hunk of meat. It could take a lot of seasoning. Flip it over, do the same thing to the back side. Then any sides we've missed, you could just kind of tap around on your prep surface here. Get all those sides nice and seasoned up. One thing I forgot to mention is you want to pay attention to the grain of the picanha. That way when you're slicing it later on, you know which way to slice it. Before I seasoned it, I saw that the direction of the grain was going this way. So I know when it's done, I'm just gonna come along this way and slice across. Now while this seasoning is setting up and adhering, we're gonna go ahead and get the Weber Kettle fired up. And today we're using Jealous Devil lump charcoal. We're using about a half of a small chimney to start this fire up. We don't wanna get this too high, but I'm gonna put it on one end of the Slow N Sear we're using. You could just use your regular charcoal baskets or just line it up against the back of the grill. We're gonna let that grill come to temperature. Now I'm not necessarily going to monitor the temperature of the grill. What I'm going to do is monitor the temperature of the meat. When it gets to about 120 internal in the thickest part, we'll throw it on the fire, get a good sear on both sides, let it come up to somewhere between 130, 135. We'll pull it off, let it rest a few minutes and slice. Let's go ahead, get the Weber fired up, and we'll be back when it's time to put this on the grill. Grill's fired up. Let's get this picanha on there. Now we have the fire started on this side. This is the thicker side, so it's gonna be closer to the heat, but the heat of the Weber kind of rolls over it, so it should cook pretty evenly. I'll check back in an hour to see where the temp is, see if it needs a spritz or anything, just to monitor how it's going. Let's close her up. Grill's closed up. We have that top vent at about 1/4 of the way open, and we're just gonna maintain that heat where it's at. And we're gonna check back in about an hour to see where that temperature is at. So we'll be back when it's time to check the temp, take a look at that meat, make sure it's cooking all right. Okay, so I'm calling a little bit of an audible here. The picanha is at about 103 degrees internal temperature, and I was thinking about another way to sear this. I was gonna put a cast iron pan on or go right over the flames, but I have these grill grates that I haven't used in a while, so I'm actually gonna use the back side of the grill grate, put this right over the coals, let this get nice and rocket hot, and then we'll go ahead and sear both sides on this. So let's put this on, let that start heating up while the picanha is getting up to that 120-ish temperature. So we're just gonna put this right over the coals as close as we can. That's gonna get nice and rocket hot. It's gonna give a great sear when we put that on there. So let's close this back up, let that internal temperature keep climbing to that 120 mark, and then as soon as it hits 120, we are going to sear it. So let's close it up. Our thermometer's going off. It's reading 120. I didn't have to spritz. I didn't have to do any rotations on it. It looks great. It's been just over an hour of cook time, about an hour 10, hour and 20 to get up to that 120. So now let's go sear it on the back side of this grill grate. Oh, this picanha is looking great. Just wait till we get that sear on it. This is searing on the meat side down. We're gonna let this go for a minute. We're gonna check that internal temp because, again, I don't want this to go over too much. So we're shooting for that 130, 135 zone. We're gonna check the internal with this Inkbird dual probe instant read thermometer. So let's go check it out and see what we're reading at right now. So we're reading in those 120s, 125 area. We're gonna go ahead and flip this onto the other side, get a good sear on that fat cap side. Let's flip it. We're gonna let this go for another minute as well, and then we're gonna pull it off and let it rest. All seared up, nothing to do now but let it rest a few minutes, let those juices redistribute, and then it's gonna be time to slice. Let's get going, and we'll be back when it's time to slice. This picanha has been resting about 15 minutes or so. We're gonna slice into it and see how we did. Let's take a look. Now it looks and smells phenomenal. Get a quick little slice in here. Again, we're going against the grain. The grain is running this way. Man, this is nice and juicy in here. Take a look at this. Not sure if you could really tell the juice is in here right now or not. My goodness. We're gonna go ahead and give this a little try here. If you've never tried picanha, you really gotta go give it a try. It is an amazing cut that I've only recently started cooking in the last year or two. Definitely worth it. If you come across it, even go online and find it and order it. It is amazing. You got that grill flavor, super beefy. I love the salty pepper. Something else that I like to do just to kick it up a notch. You already got a lot of salty flavor on there, but especially these bigger inside pieces, you could use a little more seasoning. So I like just kicking it with a touch of the pink Himalayan salt. Oh, it's so good. You don't need a lot, just a little. Tender as can be, absolutely delicious, super easy, quick cook, only took about an hour 15, maybe an hour 30 after wait time, super easy, hour and a half. Come up with this great hunk of meat, grilled flavor, salty, beefy, peppery, perfect. So if you like what we did here, please give me a thumbs up, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, check me out on social media, and we'll be talking to you all soon. Thanks everybody, peace.